Hi, I'm Nimisha Karnatak, and I'm excited to present our work titled Is It Even Giving the Correct Rating or Not? How Trust and Relationship Mediate Chronic Disease Management in India. This research was conducted during my tenure as a research fellow at Microsoft Research India in collaboration with my colleagues at Microsoft Research India and Microsoft Research USA. Chronic non-communicable diseases claim more lives worldwide than any other cause, with a disproportionately high toll in the global south. Take India for example. 2/3 of the population grapples with a chronic condition. Yet, not many study examines management practices of chronic disease with a focus on the use of technology. The goal of this work is to investigate BP management practices among low-resource communities of India to better understand their belief and perception of chronic diseases, their trust in existing infrastructure, their use of technology in the management of chronic disease, the interplay of sociocultural and economic factor in chronic disease management, and lastly, their adopted strategy for managing chronic health conditions. For this, we conducted 21 semi-structured qualitative interviews lasting for about 45 to 60 minutes. Out of the total 21 participants, only 3 owned a BP measuring device. The inclusion criteria of the study are detailed in the slide. After data analysis, 3 main themes emerged: experience of living with abnormal BP, trust in BP ecosystem, access to BP care. In this presentation, I'll be focusing on the first 2 themes, that is experience of living with abnormal BP and trust in the BP ecosystem. For further details, I encourage you to please read our full paper. We found that 1/3 of our participants received their chronic diagnosis through unexpected encounters with the healthcare provider. Rather than actively seeking medical attention for their condition, these individuals stumbled their diagnosis while visiting a doctor for an entirely unrelated reason. The unexpected discovery of chronic condition highlights the role of healthcare provider in identifying and addressing salient epidemic of non-communicable disease in low-resource communities. It underscores the importance of opportunistic screening and the need for healthcare system to be proactive in detecting and managing chronic conditions. As we further explore the experiences of our participant, an interesting pattern emerged: the interplay between treating chronic diseases as chronic and non-chronic based on convenience. Many of our participants found themselves navigating this delicate balance. They would diligently engage in regular walking, recognizing its benefit for managing their blood pressure. However, when it comes to taking medicine regularly or measuring their BP consistently, some hesitated, finding it inconvenient to integrate these practices into their daily routines. For instance, one of our hypertensive participants shared that she cannot eat chapati without salt. This quote illustrates the challenges of making lifestyle modification. Despite acknowledging the importance of reducing salt intake due to her hypertension, the participant found herself struggling to let go of the familiar taste. Moving on to the next finding regarding the trust in the care ecosystem. Participants exhibited nuanced and interconnected relationship of trust and mistrust with many aspects of the care ecosystem, spanning medicine, technology, and people. In the case of BP device, we found that participants trusted manual BP devices more than the digital one. This preference was largely influenced by doctor's recommendation, as illustrated by the quote on the slide, where a gynecologist informed a participant that manual BP machines are generally more reliable. Moreover, discrepancies in consecutive BP reading from digital device further eroded participants' trust in their accuracy. The level of trust also depended on the person measuring BP. Manual measurement required training, typically undertaken by a healthcare professional whom participant already trusted, and this trust translated to these manual BP devices as well. In contrast, digital devices needs no particular training as the interface is pretty straightforward. However, this ease of use did not translate to higher trust. Focusing more on this aspect of trust in BP measurement, I want to highlight an interesting relationship between trust and access. Our finding uncovered a nuanced and unexpected relationship between accessibility and perceived trustworthiness of a BP device. Participants trusted BP devices that have consistent consecutive readings. While this may sound like a reasonable expectation at first, in reality, BP readings fluctuate with each heartbeat. Also, BP readings are dependent on physical factors like back posture, arm posture, etc. that might go unnoticed while measuring BP at home. Participants' anxiety and conditioned response to hospital environment may cause a temporary rise in blood pressure in a hospital setting, something known as the white collar effect. All these factors combined result in a varied BP reading, or should I say, varied consecutive readings. So now the question arises, if BP changes with each heartbeat, then why do participants expect consistent BP readings? We believe it comes not from the technology itself, but from the people who typically mediate patients' access to and understanding of these BP measuring devices, which are basically healthcare professionals. So firstly, a healthcare professional is not likely to take repeated reading of a patient's BP, nor is a patient likely to request consecutive BP readings due to the prevailing power dynamics. However, if a measurement is repeated, the healthcare provider is likely to communicate those BP readings to the patient in a consistent way. But as devices become digital and move to the patient's hand, the more likely the patient is to experiment and observe the potential inconsistencies in the reading offered. The digital readout hides no information, and the resulting variability leads to patient to question the accuracy of the device. To address this trust barrier, the device could move beyond merely reporting raw numeric results and instead help patients to interpret results as well as the significance of any trend observed. For instance, if the same patient measured BP multiple times within 10 minutes, then instead of displaying the actual BP reading, the interface could display a message stating, "Your BP is similar to last time, click here to expand." More generally, an ideal device would mimic a healthcare worker's ability to contextualize the result and explain what they mean, including summarizing and visualizing trend over time. We believe that such design modification could help patients to trust their personal devices and motivate them to monitor their BP more regularly. This shift towards a more interpretive and user-centered approach aligns with the principle of patient-centered design, which prioritizes the needs, preferences, and experience of the end users. Next, we notice that trust in one actor of the BP ecosystem often fosters trust in another. Participants relied on their personal network for recommendation on lifestyle changes, alternate medicines, or even when purchasing a BP measuring device. They also sought advice from their social circle when deciding which doctor to consult, as evident from the quote on the slide. However, placing unlimited trust on social tie was not without its hazard. Health-related rumors were prevalent in participant social circle, negatively impacting their ability to make informed health decisions. One participant faced uncertainty and confusion when she heard a rumor regarding a specific dietary restriction to control BP. Though she did not know that it was a rumor, she was just uncertain. In addressing the nuances of trust within digital BP management and health management in general, we also encountered a case where trust was misplaced. A participant revealed that her son suggested the iCare app for measuring BP based on a doctor's recommendation. Despite its previous popularity and high download rates, the iCare app was never independently evaluated or FDA approved, raising serious questions about its trustworthiness. Even after this, Participants placed their trust in the app, arguing that its reading was similar to those of a manual BP device. This example highlights the potential risk associated with the misplaced trust in unverified digital health tools. One probable reason for participant trust in eye care app could be the high cost of manual BP measuring devices, which makes free BP apps an appealing alternative. In fact, the ownership of machine was rare among our participants, with only 3 out of 21 individuals possessing one, primarily due to financial constraints. Access to such devices was often made possible through shared use. The gravity of the misplaced trust becomes more clear when we consider the broader landscape of the health measurement app. For example, apps like eye care and instant blood pressure (IBP) have been downloaded extensively, with IBP reaching more than 1 million downloads. However, the trust users place in these apps is often built on shaky grounds. Studies have shown that IBP and similar applications can produce misleading blood pressure estimates heavily based on demographic data rather than accurate measurements. This leads to satisfaction among users due to lower than expected reading despite the potential risk to their health. It is this precise scenario that has led us to introduce the term interactive misinformation. Interactive misinformation encapsulates the phenomena where erroneous or misleading judgment are derived or claimed to be derived from user-provided information. The use of interactive systems such as search engine or social network from sourcing information does not constitute what we define as interactive misinformation, because users recognize that the content is not uniquely produced based on their individual inputs. However, generative AI platforms like ChatGPT embody the potential for interactive misinformation, since they actively generate new content in direct response to user input. This content generation can sometimes yield misleading or incorrect information. Within the domain of health, this type of misinformation stands apart from the widely recognized health misinformation that often circulates myths about diseases, causes, and treatments. To combat the issue of interactive misinformation, we advocate for stricter regulation in app marketplaces. We propose the adoption of a health permission model for health app without verifications. Such a model would prompt users to give informed consent for each use of the app with a clear message. Do you give this application permission to make medical recommendation which might not be accurate? In conclusion, our investigation into blood pressure management within India's low-resource community has uncovered a nuanced interplay of trust, mistrust, misplaced trust within the healthcare ecosystem. This dynamics is shaped by sociocultural, economic, and technological factors. The challenges of delivering accurate and trusted health management is intensified by the prevalence of interactive misinformation. By advancing patient-centered design in health technology and advocating for informed consent alongside stronger regulatory measures, we highlight the urgent necessity for health management tools that are accessible, reliable, intuitive, and specifically tailored to the user needs in managing chronic diseases. With that, I reach the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time.